Hey there, everybody. Welcome back with the Plapper. Platypus is the name, and today we are doing a tier list for the Chained Echoes party members. Now, as with all tier lists, this is purely backed by science and math, so if you disagree, it's merely because you're wrong. But also, there will be spoilers. If you have not beaten the game, not all the characters are going to be necessarily known at the beginning, so expect just to be full spoiler territory. And spoiler warning, we're going into it in 3, 2, 1. Turns out the whole thing was a dream. No, okay, just kidding. So we're going to start ranking these characters. Here we go. Step 1, Victor. I might rearrange them as we go, but I'm going to start with Victor as an A tier. This is also going to be through the perspective of the late game. I have beaten the game. I have not 100% the game. There's still some fights I have to do. But I feel like I've played the game like 40 hours. I've got some perception. I think I could at least say what I think is good and what isn't and why. So Victor is pretty fantastic, actually. There's only 2 main healers in the game, and I like Victor more. Amelia is a better healer, but Victor has all the support stuff. Basically, once you get his final abilities, he has the ability to buff everyone's, like, it's attack, defense, it's attack, magic, defense, elemental defense, and agility on the whole squad, you know, or at least the whole front line. Just incredibly powerful, combined with, like, is a pretty good ultimate. Not the best, but it's like an okay ultimate. Gives you a bunch of TP. Not really any other TP regenerators in the game that are very good. So just, he doesn't really do much damage, but as far as support goes, he can heal, but he's not the best healer. He can do a, but he's a good healer, but his support is incredible. I actually really like him with the cleric. You get him an early heal all, and it's not the best heal all in the game, but it's still very powerful. Scales off mind. He's able to use heavy armor, which is very good, but way tankier than the other healers. So we are going to mix up some of this stuff right here. Right here, we got our martial arts expert. She is S tier, SS plus tier, incredibly powerful. She has double step, the ability to increase agility on the whole squad by like 40% for like 8 turns. It's fucking ridiculous. Her damage is also just pretty insane. The spinning kick gets more and more and more powerful over time. Very, very powerful ability. Just agility is insane in this game. So getting your agility up, smacking people really, really hard is what she wants. Because the fact that she gets everyone's agility up means she's also making your team better at healing, better at defending, better at adapting, better at controlling the overdrive bar, because you just get to have more turns. While also doing all that, she is also very good at dealing damage. Amelia is going straight into the beats here. Amelia, I like you. I think you're great. I think you have my favorite ultimate where it fully revives the team and heals them if they're wiped out. Like, it's great to have her in the back line, then bring her into the front line when everything starts getting like out of control and bad, and then you just revive the whole team, and then you're usually in a good spot where you can keep progressing the fight. I would say that as a healer, she's better than Victor, but she doesn't really bring that much versatility outside of healing. Her buffs aren't that good. Victor is just kind of better at that. She doesn't have the heavy armor like he does. But I mean, she's not bad. She's still good. She's very essential in the team. I feel like in the right when you get her, she's like way better than Victor. And then as you get more Grimoire shards, Victor kind of takes over, in my opinion, as you start getting more and more agility stackers. Because Victor does increase agility as well with his thing. Is this the right song choice? Let's switch here. There we go. This is a slightly better song choice, I think. Next up, we got our boy Eagle here. Unfortunately, I'm going to put him right in D tier. Now, there are a few characters I haven't used that much. And he is one of them. Even though I like everything about him, it's just not my style of character. He feels like a weak Glenn in a lot of ways. He's all about sitting there, staying alive, and defending the teammates. But the issue is he has too much of his kit dedicated to that, I feel like, where he does that, but he also does that without actually, like, you don't need him and the healer, right? If you have a healer, that they're already dedicated to keeping the team alive. So the fact that he's so dedicated to keeping the team alive, he doesn't really do that much damage. I just feel like his role isn't that necessary. He's gonna draw on hate towards himself, but I honestly am just, I wasn't impressed. I used him for, you know, a little while, but it just felt like he lacked utility. He was kind of a one-trick pony. His agility is ridiculously slow. And when you had really high stats on, like I had the enemy on, you know, whatever, very hard or very high stats, his defense wasn't even impressive enough to really matter. We got, oh my gosh, I'm drawing a blank on the characters right now. Who the hell are the characters? Give me a second. Chained Echoes characters. It's like Len. Well, I just beat the game yesterday, and when you don't hear it voice acted, it's just Len. She's going straight into the S tier. Probably, in my opinion, the best individual damage dealer. Third Eye is very powerful, makes your next attack very good. She's got a decent ultimate. It's mostly just for like getting through normal encounters. But just being able to always exploit weaknesses with like her Heaven's Tear, Heaven's Tier, having great AoE, having great single target, you know, being able to use Oil Strike and then use this like that. Also, Victor here can permanently, or, you know, whatever, for like 5-6 turns or whatever, decrease people's like fire resistances. So she just hits really hard. I think mine has like 209 magic attack or something at the later stages of the game, which absolutely just hits for thousands of damage very frequently with very little setup, especially if you're using something like Third Eye. Then it gets like just insane. It probably the best individual damage dealer in the game. Next up, we got Raphael here. I think Raphael is a kind of in a confusing spot. I didn't use him that much. Because you get him pretty late into the game, and at that point I kind of already had my strategies developed, so I didn't give him enough time. But because you're forced to use him a little bit in fight, I just wasn't super impressed. You know, not like he had decent damage, decent utility. He was kind of like a magic tank, right? He had a lot of ways to shut down magic. This is a character that I think if you're going into a specific fight that is obviously going to be very magic heavy, he could probably be pretty good to the team. But I found mostly doing alpha stuff to be more powerful. And so I just didn't find him very useful. I mean, he's got some good stuff in there. The ability to like cancel a magic attack on all allies one time or something like that. Or it was like reflect magic. It was just like, I just didn't need it. I already felt like I had the best characters where I didn't even need to switch characters in and out frequently. And he didn't add anything super unique that I felt I needed for the squad. Bathra is here. I think he's kind of in the same boat. I think he's one of the worst characters in the game. Now, I think he's one of the coolest characters in the game. I think he's like kind of your first jack of all trades character you get, where he's got like equal amounts of a physical attack and magic attack, but he's kind of a master of none. He does get decent physical and magical attack, but his whole thing is like you have to do a setup for 3 turns. Like you have to do this thing that summons a weapon, do this thing that summons a weapon, do this thing that summons a weapon. Then you could use the weapons like one of 3 ways. You could either like recover the HP, do an AoE attack, or do a thing. But it's like in normal fights, the fights doesn't go long enough for it to really matter. Like you don't ever get to build it up, right? So you just use the attack because the fights don't last. He's slow. He doesn't get that many turns. And even in the longer fights, I feel like his damage isn't as good as just doing something like a spinning kick on our martial artist here, you know, where something gets stronger every consecutive use. It feels like his version is just a weaker version of that. Now, it does let you build up single target damage, or do single target damage and then build up to a more powerful AoE attack, but I don't know. It just like, even though he was really cool, he had light, he had dark, it just overall, he felt outclassed by other damage dealers. He had a little bit of support, but the support wasn't that good. He was just kind of a jack of all, master of none in my book. Tomke here, is that how you say his name? The Goat Boy. We're going to put him up in B tier. I don't think he has anything absolutely insane. Let's see if I still have this pulled up. So we can look at his skills. So like he's a decent damage dealer, okay, but I think he really offers something unique. Like he offers some really cool abilities here, like spinach power. Can we see that? Grants a shield and aura to all allies, right? Like that's really powerful. Resets the overdrive bar, raises the ultra move bar, so we can just like give you a 50% raise on the what the hell is this add-on? He has like an emergency button where you could heal everybody, or you know, revive everybody. He's got the ultra bar that goes up. This is probably his best thing. I like always having him on the back line, that way I could do an early fight, something like Glenn's ultimate, to just like completely weaken the boss, and then come in, get it all the way up to 50%, and then just have it kind of ready to go whenever I'm gonna need to heal, you know. His damage abilities are okay. They're not insanely good, but it's mostly like these really, really cool advanced one-of-a-kind support abilities, which is why I think he goes here. But for me, he's strictly a backline character. I almost never have him in the front line, even though he's got that cool cigarette attack, you know, that comes and burns everybody. He's definitely there for like the cool one-off. Oh, you know, he gives everyone aura, gives everyone shield, gives it, you know, regenerates the ultimate gauge, and then he pops out. Rob, now here's the thing. I think Rob in the early game, in the mid game, is like S tier. I think once you get to the late game, he completely plummets. I think he's probably D tier. Now, I actually like poisoning a foe and toxicking a foe is so powerful. I felt like in the mid game, in the mid-late game, it did so much damage. It was so good because fights took a long time. Enemies got a lot of turns. But as you get to a point where you start agility stacking everything, where you get all the characters getting their agility up and enemies are taking less turns, his damage falls off the higher your agility gets compared to your enemies, because his damage is based off foes taking a lot of turns. So the faster an enemy is, usually like he actually will do more damage, and then as the enemy gets slower, he will do less damage, which is why for me, he really fell off. Now, he does have a couple saving graces. You know, he's decent at the early game AoE, but besides, like in the late game, he does have that leg shot that lowers an enemy's agility, meaning he's pretty good just to have in the back line, or maybe you could switch him in, lower the enemy's agility, and try to switch him out. But when he switches in, he's kind of fast. He's not the fastest character for sure, but he is pretty fast. And then, you know, sometimes it's really good to be able to silence a foe. It's really good to be able to paralyze a foe. It's really good to be able to lower their agility. So he's like the debuff master, right? Most debuffs aren't that good. But they definitely have a time and they have a place. So I think maybe he's not a D character. I think he's like a low C, just because of how much his damage falls off. And he's only good if you really need to lower a foe's agility, or you really need to paralyze, or you really need to blind, or you really need to silence. And even then, you're only going to get like 1, maybe 2 uses out of it in an entire fight. So I think he's like a backline character that you have for those, like, you know, you just have a bunch of different debuffs on him and a character needs to get debuffed, then he's your guy, but you're not using him almost ever. And he doesn't bring anything truly that powerful by the late game. Magnolia, so I'm going to put her D tier. I'm going to be honest with you. And that's just because I don't like her playstyle. I don't like the, you know, deal X to between this range of damage, you know, this many times. I just don't like the inconsistency of it. I do think maybe she's a C tier. I don't know. She might be better than Rob. No, she's just not my type. You know what? I'm putting her D tier purely. I'll acknowledge this is the character I have the least amount of experience with. I've played all the characters in this game significantly more than her. I just don't like her kit. I don't like what she's about. Cool looking character and whatnot, but I just wasn't impressed. I don't like the low rolls that you can get consistently. Now we're to the final two here. They almost look like brother sister, don't they? Glenn. I think Glenn is S tier. I think Glenn is an S tier character. There was a mid part of the game where I thought he was kind of weak. I'll be honest. I think he's really good in the early game, good damage, good support. And then in the mid game, he kind of falls off a little bit. But then once you get to the late game, he really comes back around. His ability to get, like, you basically want to give him a bunch of HP, a bunch of defense. So he's kind of like an eagle here, where he's just like, whenever someone's going to do a single target hit and try to kill someone, one of your squishier characters, like your damage dealers, he'll just take the hit and he'll be fine. But he also has a really, really important way to control the overdrive gauge. He's got restrain, and he's got cheer. So you could either bump it up or knock it down, basically whenever you want. And he's got defense break. He's got armor break. He's got power break. He's got like magic break. He's got all break. His ultimate is one of the best. AoE, break everything into oblivion. Then you just got to keep it refreshing. So he makes all the foes take more damage, all the foes deal more damage, which is a way of protecting the team, increasing your damage output, while also being able to just spend turns lowering the overdrive gauge. That way you can focus on your other characters actually doing really, really powerful things. Glenn is an S tier character. but he has to be paired with people that are actually getting work done. So he's kind of like Eagle, where he protects people, but he also is great at increasing the damage of your team. And again, overdrive is important in this game. He has the ability to master it. I think, God, I feel like such a scrub right now. The fact that I can't, remember the characters' names right now is actually sad to me. Sienna, I remember it now. Sienna. I'm gonna put Sienna in A tier. I don't think she's an S tier character. Yeah, she's good. She's actually really good. I think that her damage actually kind of falls off. I know she has that ability, like, to give herself, it's like 75% agility until she takes an attack. So if you do a full Sienna team where everyone's dedicated to making sure she never takes a point of damage from an attack, her damage probably goes way up. But my issue with her was her abilities didn't deal that much damage. Even like her ultimate big ability, which does damage that scales with your agility, it did good, but it would hit 1 to 5 times. So sometimes it would hit 1. On average, it hits right 2.5 times. So between 2 and 3 times. And I felt like most of the time, its average damage was less than what I could get out of some of my other damage dealers. Now, that could be a perception thing. You know, maybe if you have really high crit on her and you're doing it, then maybe you are getting a lot more damage out of it than what I was telling, because it doesn't tell you total damage, you know. So I'm just looking like 200, like 600 damage. Is that good when these characters could be hitting for over 1,000 every single turn, every time without crits? But I do think she's like insane. She's a great damage dealer, has the ability to, you know, blind all enemies, the ability to increase everyone's. She doesn't have the ability to increase everyone's agility. That's the monk, I think. But she has the ability to increase her own agility, has the really powerful, you know, 3x attack. So you could just, although her other really powerful one, that that hits like 5 times, that one doesn't actually trigger your pedal storm, right? But the ability to bleed foes, which kind of falls off later for just more damage. That's kind of what it is. Like, she was very powerful, but her damage kind of fell off compared to my other 2 main damage dealers in my game. Now, it's possible that I'm misusing her, but she never really left my party. There was a point where I did take her out and put her in the back row to have like these 4 instead. I just felt that this team worked a little bit better. But you know, you get agility buff, and like a monk agility buff, and then you give her self agility buff, and she's just like, she moves so fast that the buffs start falling off of her before the rest of the party by a long shot, because she just gets like you know, multiple turns in a row and like 3-4 turns in between bosses getting action. So definitely insanely powerful, but I still don't think she has quite the damage of these other characters. Now, she might be closer to Len, but Len always has the ability to exploit weaknesses, which I think is giving her an edge up, even though Sienna is faster and has more utility overall. I think Len's ability to always exploit a weakness and combine really well with people using like oil blade, things like that, helps out a good amount. Now you can give Sienna like fire attack on her enchantments, and then you could have a build based around lowering fire resistance and oiling foes and then attacking them with a bunch of power. And like, yeah, you could make a lot of stuff, powerful combinations work. I'm just trying to assume, right, like no weapons, essentially. No weapons, no armor. Just like, what's the character do on their base level? And so I think this is where I'm going to keep the list for now. This is what I'm happy with. Anyway, let me know if you agree, disagree, love, hate what I have to say. Purplatypus is Purplatypus. I will see you in the next video. Peace.